Here's a story about a young man named Raskolnikov who lives in a crowded city. Raskolnikov is a student, but he is very poor. He rents a tiny, gloomy room where he spends most of his time alone. He doesn't have enough money for food, and he feels ashamed of his worn clothes. Often, he sneaks out to avoid meeting his landlady because he owes her money. Raskolnikov is angry at his situation, and his feelings of loneliness only grow. Raskolnikov is a thinker. He believes some people are born to do great things and that they can make their own rules. He wonders, are some people more important than others? Do they have the right to break the rules if it means they can help the world? These thoughts trouble him, but he can't shake them. He begins to ask himself, what if I am one of those people? Then Raskolnikov meets an old woman named Alyona. She is a pawnbroker, a person who lends money to those who bring valuable items, like rings or watches, as security. Alyona gives people very little money and charges high interest, so they end up paying much more back than she lent them. She is cold and strict, and people dislike her, but many still go to her because they have no choice. Raskolnikov feels a strong dislike for Alyona. He thinks she is greedy and cruel, taking advantage of poor people. He convinces himself that getting rid of Alyona would be a good thing. If I take her money, I can help myself and others, he thinks. He starts to believe that by taking from her, he can make his life better and maybe even help others in need. This idea grows in his mind until it becomes a plan. One evening, Raskolnikov makes up his mind. He picks up an axe and hides it under his coat. As he walks through the crowded streets, he feels both nervous and excited. This is it, he tells himself, the chance to change everything. He tries to stay calm, but his hands are shaking and his heart beats fast. When he reaches Alyona's building, he climbs the stairs to her small, cramped room. Raskolnikov knocks on her door. Alyona opens it, looking at him with suspicion. She recognizes him because he has visited her before to pawn some items. Raskolnikov steps into her room, glancing around at the small piles of valuables she has taken from others. As Alyona turns away, he raises the axe. In a single moment, he strikes her down. He stands over Alyona's lifeless body, feeling strange part relief, part horror. But before he can even breathe, someone enters the room. It's Lizaveta, Alyona's younger sister. Lizaveta is kind and gentle, nothing like Alyona. She stares in shock at the sight in front of her. Raskolnikov panics without thinking. He swings the axe again, silencing Lizaveta. He realizes he's trapped himself in a far darker place than he ever imagined. Raskolnikov runs down the stairs and out into the street, his mind spinning. He feels like he's being followed, though no one knows what he's done. His heart is pounding, and he can barely catch his breath. He hides the few things he took from Alyona and stumbles back to his room. Once there, he locks the door and tries to calm down. But his mind won't stop racing. For days, he feels haunted. He can't eat or sleep. Every little noise makes him jump, and he becomes convinced that someone will find out his secret. Whenever he hears footsteps or voices outside, he holds his breath, fearing that the police are coming for him. His once clear mind fills with fear and guilt, and he begins to feel trapped by his own thoughts. He even starts to hear Alyona's voice in his mind, scolding him. When he sees shadows, he imagines Lizaveta standing there, silently watching him. These feelings grow stronger, and soon Raskolnikov feels like he's slipping away from reality. He wonders if everyone he meets somehow knows what he's done. One day, Raskolnikov decides to leave his room. He wanders the streets, hoping the fresh air will clear his mind. He stops at a small, dim bar where he meets a man named Marmeladov. Marmeladov is sad and tired, his face showing signs of a difficult life. He tells Raskolnikov about his troubles, explaining that he spends his money on alcohol even though his family needs it. I'm ashamed, Marmeladov says, but I don't know how to stop. As Raskolnikov listens, he feels both pity and a strange connection to Marmeladov. Marmeladov's story reminds Raskolnikov of his own struggles and loneliness. He realizes that many people in the world suffer and make poor choices out of desperation. Meeting Marmeladov helps Raskolnikov understand that he isn't alone in his pain. but it doesn't ease his guilt. Later, Raskolnikov meets Marmeladov's daughter, Sonia. Sonia is young, but life has been hard for her too. She works to support her family, doing difficult and sometimes shameful jobs. Sonia's heart, however, remains gentle and kind. She takes care of her family because she loves them deeply, even if it means putting aside her own happiness. Raskolnikov is drawn to Sonia. He finds comfort in her presence and respects her strength. Unlike him, Sonia does not complain or try to escape her troubles by hurting others. She accepts her life and tries to make the best of it. Raskolnikov sees that Sonia's kindness gives her a strength he has never had. One evening, Raskolnikov feels overwhelmed. The weight of his actions presses on him, and he doesn't know where to turn. In a moment of desperation, he goes to Sonia and tells her everything. He confesses that he took Alyona's and Lizaveta's lives. Sonia listens with wide eyes, shocked by what he says. But she doesn't push him away. Instead, she listens quietly and tries to understand his pain. Sonia tells him that he cannot hide from what he did forever. If you want to find peace, you must confess, she says. She explains that running from his actions will only make his suffering worse. Raskolnikov is frightened. He doesn't want to go to prison, but he also feels a small spark of hope. For the first time, he sees a path forward, a chance to find peace. Raskolnikov wrestles with his thoughts, torn between fear and the hope Sonia has given him. Part of him wants to flee the city and start a new life far away. But another part knows Sonia is right. He can't keep living with the weight of his guilt. It gnaws at him day and night, never letting him rest. After days of struggling, Raskolnikov makes his decision. He walks to the police station, each step feeling heavy. His hands tremble as he enters and asks to speak to an officer. He takes a deep breath and tells them everything, from his plans to his terrible actions. With each word, he feels a strange sense of relief washing over him, as though he is finally free. In the end, Raskolnikov is sentenced to prison. He feels both scared and hopeful. Sonia visits him in prison, bringing him small comforts and talking with him about their future. They dream of a time when he can leave prison and start anew. For the first time, Raskolnikov begins to believe that happiness is possible, not through power or breaking rules, but through love and kindness. In prison, Raskolnikov spends time thinking. He reflects on his life and realizes that his ideas about being a special person were wrong. He sees now that no one has the right to harm others for their own gain. True happiness, he learns, comes from caring for others, not from selfish ambitions. Raskolnikov's journey is hard, and he struggles with his own shame and regrets. But with Sonia's support, he starts to rebuild himself. He learns to take responsibility for his actions and understands that kindness is more powerful than he ever realized. And so, Raskolnikov begins a new path, one where he hopes to help others and make up for his mistakes. Though he has lost many things, he has found something even more valuable, a sense of peace and a hope for a better life.